Welcome back. Georgia Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene is a far-right conspiracy theorist who promoted hanging Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and agreed the fastest way to remove Nancy Pelosi as Speaker was a bullet to the head. She claimed the school shooting at Parkland was set up by gun control activists, and a 2019 video shows her harassing Parkland survivor David Hogg.
He's got nothing to say. Sad. He has nothing to say because there really isn't anything to say, you guys. He has nothing to say because he's paid to do this. And he's a coward. He can't say one word because he can't defend his stance.
This week I spoke to Broward Democrat Debbie Wasserman Schultz and started by asking her for her reaction.
This is a menace that has been elected to Congress, and we need to do everything we can to politically neutralize her so she can stop bringing shame on the House of Representatives. But that's the least of our problems, so that she can stop endangering not only my colleagues' and I's lives, but not be able to bring harm to the democratic process that we have to go through to be able to make people's lives better.
She was actually appointed by Republican leader McCarthy to serve on the Education and Labor Committee, where she would have some say over exactly what happens to students. You know, and not only does she advance the conspiracy theories about Parkland, but also about Newtown, you know, the tragedy at Sandy Hook. You know, yes. What does that tell you about Leader McCarthy on the Republican side?
Look, the Republican Party has basically become a cult. I mean, it is no longer entitled to claim that it's a political party. They are the extremists are the norm rather than the exception now in their party. The fact that Kevin McCarthy went down to pay homage to their cult leader Donald Trump and has not condemned what Marjorie Taylor Greene has said, has not condemned the actions of his far-right members. You know, if you haven't condemned them, if you're turning the other cheek, then, as we remember from the Nazis, you are one of them. And so that's just not acceptable, and they need to be held accountable. We have 2 more years. We can hold them further accountable at the polls. But in the meantime, if Kevin McCarthy does not remove Marjorie Taylor Greene, as he did when Steve King made far less heinous remarks than Marjorie Taylor Greene has made and taken far less heinous actions, then I'm going to be filing legislation on Monday, to a resolution on Monday that would ask the House to remove her.
You know, we saw in the immediate aftermath of what happened on January 6th, some Republicans step forward, including Republican McCarthy and even Mitch McConnell in the Senate, sort of lay the blame for the insurrection at Donald Trump's feet. But in the 3 weeks or so since then, they've completely backpedaled from that. It's almost as if they stuck their toe in the water of saying, can we get rid of Donald Trump as a strong influence on the party? They were rebuffed, and now they're sort of retreating from that position. Is it just an abdication? Do we just assume the Republican Party is the party of Trump?
They are drunk with the power that the far-right extremists give them, and they are deathly afraid to disavow that wing of their party, mostly because now it is most of the Republican Party. And they know that the energy that they get, which is poison energy, but the energy that they get from that fervency from the extreme right is what keeps them in office. I mean, there is an ever-growing percentage of their caucus that is made up of far-right extremists who subscribe to these horrendous, horrific views. I mean, these are people who have not condemned the attack on the Capitol. I mean, Kevin McCarthy, who would be the speaker if the Republicans were in the majority, he has actually now suggested that all Americans bear some responsibility for the attack on the Capitol on January 6th.
The speaker this week talked about the enemy within, referring to concerns that she had for some of the members of Congress from the Republican side that you seem to be describing as well. Are you fearful of them, and what steps are you taking? I don't want to put you at any further risk, but have you had to take extra precautions and steps to protect yourself? Because it does seem as if there's a growing concern that even the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security recognizes for members of Congress.
We have been advised as members of Congress to be very careful, to take extra security precautions, to make sure that we are not cavalier about our own safety or the safety of our families. And there are provisions being made for us to be able to do that. It is extremely disturbing when you have members of Congress who refuse. Well, first of all, the fact that we have to have magnetometers outside the House chamber before you enter now, because there are members of Congress that are insisting or attempting to bring guns, which are prohibited, into the House chamber. That's a tragedy into and of itself. The fact that they are going around the magnetometers, that we know that there are Republican members like Lauren Boebert who and
Cawthorn.
Right. Yeah, the Cawthorn who have said they brought guns into the chamber. That's just unacceptable. It's dangerous, and yes, it does. I'm not someone that lives day to day in fear, but I am going to vote for the rule change this week that Speaker Pelosi is proposing that will fine members, that they will have to pay personally $5,000 on the first offense and $10,000 on the second offense if they go around the magnetometers and refuse to be screened before they enter the House chamber. We have to do that, and that's frightening that we have to be fearful about our own colleagues being a danger to us.
All right, let's turn to COVID relief. President Biden offered a $1.9 trillion package. It's met with some resistance.
This is a crisis, and a health crisis of epic proportions, once in a century pandemic that we have to make sure we not only crush the virus, but we have to be able to significantly invest in our economy because it has been devastated by the impacts of the pandemic. And so it's $1.9 trillion, and we're dealing with federal numbers here. And there are so many critical elements of this package, including making sure we can get small businesses back on their feet, make sure that we provide resources to get this vaccine distributed efficiently and effectively and as quickly as possible, make sure that we can help renters and landlords and people who need assistance paying their mortgage, make sure that we can provide childcare assistance so that we can get people back to work and strike the balance between keeping people safe who shouldn't be circulating, and also be able to make sure our economy doesn't completely collapse. So the American people gave Democrats the majority and the White House, and we need to make sure that we use that opportunity now to provide the kind of relief that Republicans refused to provide and that we'd spent months haggling with them over. So yes, as a member of the Appropriations Committee, I can tell you, we always want to do this through the pure appropriations process and provide the resources the American people need. But if we have to try to pass this with reconciliation procedures, which allows us to vote with a simple majority through the United States Senate, then so be it.
You know, you talk about crushing the virus, but I'm curious as to how you think the state of Florida is doing in terms of its vaccine rollout. And, I think that there are some who actually say that Florida is not as bad as other states, that Florida has actually been doing a decent job, a good job of protecting its seniors. At least that's the argument that the governor would make. What would you say?
Those folks that are saying that Florida is doing a good job haven't been on the ground at the vaccination sites that I have been volunteering at and heard the cries and complaints of the people who, once they finally get an appointment, are telling their tale of woe of how difficult it was to get it. Look, what I say to the governor is, dude, you had one job. I know this is a governor who hates government, who doesn't think that government is useful in almost any way, and so it shouldn't be surprising to us that he had almost a year to be able to plan for when we had a vaccine, that we had a system in place that, look, thankfully last night, apparently the share care system to establish a pre-registration system and set up appointments was rolled out. We'll see how well it functions. This governor doesn't really have a good track record when it comes to large systems that are, that don't crash or that, get overloaded with phone calls. So, but right now we still have a wild west, Jim. It is a matter of, to get a vaccine from appointment to administration is like a dartboard. It's hit or miss whether or not you're going to be able to get online or get your phone call accepted or be able to find a site near you that can get an appointment. We're talking about senior citizens. These are often people who don't have a computer. They're people who don't have the ability to sit on the phone and shouldn't have to sit on for hours on end. This morning, within minutes, Public's appointment system filled up. The governor has a penchant for doing things that the government should be responsible for and do efficiently, and cop that out to the private sector. And certainly Publics and other private entities can be a supplement, but the primary responsibility of the state government and the federal government is to work together to get this vaccine, which is a federal asset, distributed efficiently. And no one, I think, has said that the governor of this state has done that efficiently or effectively. He's also not been honest or transparent about the process. The last thing we saw on paper with any clarity was in October, before the vaccines even had an emergency use authorization. Where's the plan? Where's the clarity? He changed what he said about second doses from 1 week to the next. We just can't trust this governor to effectively and efficiently get this vaccine distributed.
We'll be right back.